speculation mounting as we await the first indictment of the special counsel on Robert Mueller's Russia probe. We expect it today.
We could see somebody taken into custody this morning.
This is like the Academy Awards in Washington of who's in the indictment envelope. The sort of solid money is on Paul Manafort.
The new report finds that Obama for America paid nearly $1 million to that same law firm that funneled the money to Fusion GPS.
You got questions whether Obama the politician knew, and of course what Obama the president knew. Either way, the questions need to be answered.
We now know the name of the soldier killed in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. 36-year-old Army Chief Warrant Officer Jacob Sims died Friday.
Christ Church in Alexandria, Virginia say they are going to take down that George Washington plaque, saying the plaques make some in our presence feel unsafe.
For those that are offended by a plaque somewhere in a church, you at best leave the church, period.
The folks here, I said, is it going to rain all day today? Steve, what was your answer?
I said till noon.
Brian says no. And Tully, our producer, says, Brian Tully says yes. So I got 3 different answers, and then Tully said, I'm just telling you what my cab driver told me.
You know what? You might want to go ask Steve. He's got his iPhone.
Why don't we ask Janice?
If you look right there, you can see, according to my Apple iPhone, that here in New York City, it's going to rain until about through the 10 o'clock hour.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
So it's a rainy day.
Person here. I know. Janice, is it going to rain all day?
You weren't here, Janice. Where are you?
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm doing work.
And she's wearing her trench
Janice,
coat.
what's the answer? Is it going to rain all over the Northeast today?
There's a good chance.
There's what?
There's a good chance.
There's a good chance. All right. Very ambiguous here.
So anyway, welcome back to the Weather Channel. That's the very latest on the day ahead weather-wise. Listen, it's Mueller Monday, so let's start with our top story. Speculation mounting as we await what could be the first indictment in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe.
All right, it's an announcement that could be made today. They say maybe it won't. Maybe it won't even come out this week.
Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with more on what we can expect today. Hey, Griff.
Hey, good morning, guys. You know, if these leaks are true, that the grand jury has approved its first charges, it is very possible we could see someone taken into custody as soon as this morning, and that will give us a better idea of where this investigation is headed once we know that. But first, let's recap simply what we know. All right, on May 17th, Robert Mueller appointed to a special counsel. Then, in July 26th, the FBI raids the home of one-time campaign chairman Paul Manafort, and on August 5th, Mueller impanels a grand jury. Now, we have no idea who will be charged or even what the charges may be, but some of the known targets come to mind, like Mike Flynn, the president's former national security advisor, being investigated for alleged conversations with the Russians during the campaign, or Paul Manafort, as we mentioned, whose probe dates back to business dealings with the Russians years ago. Or it is also entirely possible that the person being charged is someone that we've never heard of, and that will be telling, certainly in and of itself. Whoever it is, Republicans are blasting the leak of these charges, which were sealed by a federal judge, and Democrats, like Adam Schiff, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, says he's not been informed of the charges, but suggests it may answer some key questions.
If it is Paul Manafort, and he has apparently told others that he expects to be indicted, it may help us answer one very central question in the investigation. The question is, who gave what to whom as a result of these overtures?
So, guys, no one is talking this morning, not Mueller's team, not the attorneys representing any of the targets we've mentioned, but it's pretty much wait and see. We have teams all over this town to see what happens.
All right, Griff, we thank you very much. Keep in mind, this all got started after Hillary Clinton lost, and there's a new Ed Klein book that is coming out. Ed's going to be on the show tomorrow. Essentially what he says is around Christmas time, Barack Obama and some of his top lieutenants figured out, okay, this is how we are going to destroy the presidency of Donald Trump. Not only just destroy it, ending in impeachment.
Right.
So Ed's going to be with us tomorrow.
And we know that that was also in Shattered. They quickly pivoted to this. But did they do that knowing that Fusion GPS was doing all this investigation and they weren't coming clean on who was actually doing it and paying for it? And now we find out it was the Democratic Party. and it was Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Well, the White House is saying there's no indication that it's someone who works for the White House, in the White House, or someone who is related to it. So that could eliminate Don Jr. It could eliminate Jared Kushner.
And the president himself. The president, from what we've heard, has never been a target. Susan Collins, the senator from the great state of Maine, said yesterday, I see a lot of the stuff. There's no evidence of collusion.
Well, Chris Christie said the president was told he is not under investigation.
Well, there you go. We just had Jonathan Turley on about 15 minutes ago, and he said the fact that we are talking about it on this Monday, on Mueller Monday, knowing that an indictment is coming up, somebody leaked from the grand jury, and that can be a crime, but then again, sometimes it isn't. Listen.
Washington floats on a roaring and rolling wave of leaks, and this is not the first time that we've had grand jury information that's ended up in the press. There is a rule called Rule 6E that does make it a crime to release grand jury information, but there are exceptions. One of the biggest reasons you have information come out in a case like this is that prosecutors will normally let an attorney know if their client is the subject of an indictment to give the person a chance to surrender. And so the information post-indictment does get out on some occasions.
If you're under investigation, you know it.
Right. That's what Chris Christie's contention was yesterday. Meanwhile...
And your lawyer might have blabbed.
Right. And now the president has a different view on this. Maybe you do too. The big story is, how did you even get this information? This dossier, which the president claims, and most people agree, contains mostly erroneous material and salacious material that is, but some will never be corroborated, and some say has been, but the president will push back on that. He says this: "Never seen such Republican anger and unity as I've concerning the lack of investigation on the Clinton-made fake dossier. Now it's up to $12 million. The uranium deal, the 33,000 plus deleted emails, the Comey fix. Instead, they look at phony Trump-Russia collusion, which does not exist. The Dems are using this terrible and bad for the country witch hunt for evil politics, but the Republicans are now fighting back like never before. There's so much guilt by Democrats, Clinton on, the facts are pouring in to do something."
Right. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to shift the spotlight back to Hillary Clinton and suggest that the fact that she funded the opposition research along with the DNC was a sign that she was working with Russia. There should be an investigation.
Fusion GPS got paid a lot of money. There's a report now that Obama's campaign paid $972,000, almost $1 million, to that law firm that secretly was associated with the dossier.
And in fact, I was talking to Tom Fitton in the last hour, and he said, for the most part, all prominent Democrats work with that particular agency, that particular
They made a
law firm.
lot of money.
They did indeed.
So we're going to get their financials this week. They cut a deal with the House Intelligence Committee to come clean. Why? Because Fusion GPS does not want you to know their client list. Evidently, there's some questionable characters and maybe countries on that client list, and it would blow up their whole company. Well, personally, I'm not really sure that's a bad thing if you have such bad people that you're actually working for and making a profit with. Tom Fitton joined Steve earlier.
President Obama had it in for President Trump, then at the time the candidate. You had the dossier being used by the Obama FBI, the Obama Justice Department, maybe the Obama CIA to target Team Trump. You got questions whether Obama the politician knew as a result of his running the DNC and his White House political operation and these payments, and of course what Obama the president knew. Maybe Mr. Mueller can provide the answers. We've asked the questions of the FBI and Justice Department. These aren't secrets. We can get the answers if the deep state would just answer the questions.
Yeah, for some reason the FBI is not really cooperating. This week they're supposed to give us an idea of whether they used this stuff to get to even get the Mueller probe going. If James Comey was using it for his investigation, besides just explaining it to the president and president-elect, was he also using that as a jumping-off point to do an investigation of international business ties?
Right, but the FBI is under no obligation to release information to the press about what they're doing. The FBI is working with Mueller and his, his special counsel attorneys. They don't have to tell us what's going on.
Why not?
I think, well, because if you tell us what's going on, then the people who might have broken the law would know that as well. There's no expectation of that being private until the indictments come.
If you're using a privately run investigation to launch an investigation into our president, we should know about it.
Yeah, we should.
I mean, if Fusion GPS's report has launched a federal investigation into our president, and you don't want to tell us if it did, I think I have a problem with that.
Well, I think we're going to find out, but first indictments come and the process continues.
There's so many indictments, so many leakers. This leaker, whoever leaked this indictment information that Mueller's going to indict someone today, whoever that leaker is, I don't think they're ever going to get caught. I think it's just going to be brushed under the table, just like everything else. None of these leakers are ever going to get caught.
But it could be the lawyer for whoever gets indicted today, according to Jonathan Turley. As Griff said earlier, we got people all over Washington, D.C. If there is an arrest, we'll have it for you promptly.
No one's indoors, except Jillian. Hi, Jillian.
Well, and you guys.
Yes, we're indoors.
Right, you're indoors.
Everyone else is outdoors.
Everyone else. And that's a shame because it's raining. Yeah. Good morning, guys. Good morning to you at home. Let's get to a Fox News alert. An American held hostage by the Taliban in Afghanistan is seriously ill and getting worse. The terror group claims Kevin King is suffering from heart and kidney problems and often loses consciousness. The extremists calling on the U.S. to meet their demands, or else they say they won't be held accountable for his death. King and an Australian man were teaching at the American University in Afghanistan when they were kidnapped last year. He lost his ability to talk and walk after being shot in the head in an ambush attack, searching for disgraced Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. Today, Master Sergeant Mark Allen's wife will take the stand as one of the final prosecution witnesses in Bergdahl's sentencing hearing. Bergdahl walked off his post in Afghanistan in 2009. He could get life behind bars. A judge could declare a mistrial today in New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez's corruption case. The Democrats' lawyers argue the judge unfairly blocked testimony from key witnesses. One of those witnesses, Mark Elias, who worked as a lawyer for the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC. He's recently gaining attention for his role in commissioning the Trump dossier. Menendez is accused of accepting gifts from a wealthy Florida doctor in exchange for political favors. The Houston Astros are one win away from the World Series title after a home run-filled Game 5 against the LA Dodgers. Over baseball, guys. Gotta love it.
So if the Astros win tomorrow, they're the champs.
They're the winners.
Right. All right. Meanwhile, 12 minutes now after the hour, Democrats denying any ties to the Russian dossier. But our next guest, who advised President Trump, says it's the opposite, and a special counsel needs to look into Hillary's Russian connection.
And this guy might win the award for the worst Halloween costume ever. He just walked into a crowded mall dressed like that.
Yikes.
Opposition research is part of the political process, and it goes on, all the time.
How could you have let the DNC be in the dark about the dossier?
I wasn't aware of the arrangement at all. Opposition research is commonly done. It's just a part of how campaigns are run in a modern American election.
And nobody knows about it either. The left continued to dismiss the Fusion GPS dossier as opposition research while denying any knowledge of its connection to the DNC, but we know it's a fact. But our next guest says it exposes the Russian connections to the Clintons and the Democrats. Michael Caputo is a former senior advisor to the Trump campaign. He says he was unmasked as part of the probe into the dossier. Now, Michael, that's what you think. We don't know for sure that the FBI used the dossier to unmask hundreds of people, do we?
No, we don't yet, but we also don't know the FBI's role in the dossier at all. But I guess we're going to find out, and all I can tell you is that it was the most operative form of intelligence that was floating around in the media and in the Obama administration at the time when all of us were unmasked. So, a lot of us believe that it was at the heart of that decision.
Right. So we find out that they picked up the ball from the Washington Examiner, but the Washington Examiner pushed back and said, wait a second, we did open source domestic investigation as opposition research. President Trump wins, it's it. We stopped. This had nothing to do with it. They had a separate contract with Fusion GPS, who was pushing back hard on holding back on their financials. What do you think they're holding back on?
I think they're holding back who their clients are and how much they were paid for this. Fusion GPS did what a lot of opposition research companies do in Washington. When somebody decided to stop funding their research, they went and sold the product that was already paid for by Washington Free Beacon to the Democrats, and the Democrats then expanded it and involved foreign spies like Christopher Steele and the Russian spies who sold Christopher Steele intelligence information. So it went from being, desktop research into Donald Trump's businesses and apparently many other candidates to being a dossier put together by spies. Right. It sounds like a lot of collusion to me.
What do you mean? Collusion with the Russians and with the Fusion GPS and the Clinton campaign?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. The Clinton campaign hired an attorney to hire Fusion GPS, to hire a spy, to buy intelligence information from Russian spies. I mean, you call it opposition research only when it's got Democrat fingerprints on it. When the Republicans were meeting with sources who claimed to have bad information about Hillary Clinton, that was collusion. Except this time there are real Russian spies involved. And to me, it sounds like they were doing something really bad.
And what the link is, if this, we don't know for sure if this document spurred the FBI to do this investigation. We don't know if this document allowed the FISA court to unmask hundreds of Trump campaign workers.
We don't, but we know it was bouncing around a lot. I first got calls on this as a Trump advisor in May from reporters who said, they got a hold of this thing, it looks a little bit weird, what do you think? And it was starting in May, which was 1 month after Hillary Clinton took over paying for it. And it kept going through the entire summer. I got calls at least once a week from legitimate reporters who were being sold this document. We also know it was bouncing around in the White House under Obama.
Gotcha, Michael.
And so we think, right.
All right, thanks. Michael Caputo, thanks so much. When we come back, more on this with Kellyanne Conway from Washington.
We have some quick headlines for you. We are now learning how an escaped inmate got from West Virginia all the way to the Rio Grande, where he was caught trying to cross into Mexico. Police nabbing 43-year-old Todd Boys and a getaway driver who they say picked him up from the jail. It took prison officials nearly 2 days to even realize the guy was gone.
He just dressed in normal clothes and left.
And a dad sparking panic. Look at this, walking into a costume party dressed as what people thought was an ISIS gunman. Police were called to investigate this guy. He was wearing that black robe, carrying a fake gun at a mall in Nebraska. Could you imagine if you're shopping there and you see that guy?
Well, it is Halloween weekend.
The guy says it's all a big misunderstanding, that he was actually dressed as an armed nun from the movie The Town.
Okay. Bad choice. Meanwhile, it is the largest single-team protest in the NFL to date. All but 10 of the Houston Texans kneeling or sitting during the national anthem. The show of force in response to owner Bob McNair, who compared the players to inmates when at a meeting he said we can't have the inmates running the prison.
Dean Cain played for the Buffalo Bills before becoming a Hollywood actor, and went to Princeton and joins us right now. So this is the kneeling story with a new twist. The owner was trying to do was trying to come out with a phrase, don't let the inmates run the asylum, like the coaches and owners are usually in charge, and it became huge headlines.
Yeah, very unfortunate choice of words. He missed the analogy there, obviously. If he had said asylum, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about it right now. He's apologized tremendously for it. And he was trying to refer to the league being the inmates, if you will, and because their league is running things strangely.
And he wanted the league to crack down on the people who were not standing during the anthem.
Yeah, and it's sort of the league dictating policy. And the truth of the matter is, I think Roger Goodell is very much to blame for this at this point in time. They're not clear on their policy. You know, in the NBA, you're standing, and you have to. It's a workplace. Can you imagine doing that when you're working in your office?
Well, the league has been clear, though. Do anything you want.
Yeah, unfortunately, but 5 police officers get shot in Dallas, and those guys couldn't put a decal on their helmet. So they're very specific when they want to be. It needs to be really clearly drawn out.
Yeah.
Here's our policy on the anthem.
What about McNair's apology? Is that enough? He said, I am truly sorry to the players for how this has impacted them and the perception that it has created of me, which could not be further from the truth. Our focus going forward, personally and as an organization, will be toward making meaningful progress regarding the social issues that mean so much to our players and our community. Is that enough?
Well, it's hard to say if it's going to be enough. I mean, if it's truly heartfelt, I don't know the gentleman, so if it's truly heartfelt, I hope so. I'd like to get past this as an NFL fan. I'd like to get past the whole the whole anthem controversy. The NFL fans are a very patriotic bunch, and they don't like to see that. It's hurting
No, they don't. They're taking out, these players who are kneeling during the anthem, they're taking out their anger about other issues on veterans and on the flag.
Well, that's what it appears, and that's an awful thing. So I think there are much better ways they could do that. They can go about creating a situation where the players and the league, pushes towards working with the law enforcement communities, within their communities, a lot of outreach.